The Kalachakra is a term used in Vajrayana Buddhism that means wheel of time or time cycles. Kalachakra is usually used to refer to a very complex teaching and practice in Tibetan Buddhism. Although the teaching is very advanced and esoteric, there is a tradition of offering it to large public audiences. Kalachakra tradition. Kalachakra refers both to a patron tantric deity or Istadevata, Vajrayana Buddhism, and to the philosophies and meditation practices contained within the Kalachakra Tantra and its many commentaries. The Kalachakra Tantra is more properly called the Kalachakra Laghu Tantra, and is said to be an abridged form of an original text, the Kalachakra Mula Tantra, which is no longer extant. Some Buddhist masters assert that Kalachakra is the most advanced form of Vajrayana practice. It certainly is one of the most complex systems within Tantric Buddhism. The Kalachakra tradition revolves around the concept of time and cycles. From the cycles of the planets to the cycles of human breathing, it teaches the practice of working with the most subtle energies within one's body on the path to enlightenment. The Kalachakra deity represents a Buddhahood and thus omniscience. Since Kalachakra is time and everything is under the influence of time, Kalachakra knows all. Kalachakri, his spiritual consort and complement, is aware of everything that is timeless, not time-bound or out of the realm of time. In Yab-Yum, they are temporality and atemporality conjoined. Similarly, the wheel is without beginning or end. The term wheel, evoked herewith, is a principal polyvalent sign, teaching tool, organizing metaphor and iconographic device within Indian religions. Some wheel cognates are the Astamangala symbol of the Dharmakakra, Vishnu's Sudarsana chakra, and the theory of samsara. Kalachakra refers to many different traditions. For example, it is related to Hindu Shaiva, Samkhya, Vaishnava, Vedic, Upanishadic and Puranic traditions, and also to Jainism. The Kalachakra mandala includes deities which are equally accepted by Hindus, Jains and Buddhists. The Kalachakra deity resides in the center of the mandala in his palace, consisting of 4 mandalas, one within the other. The mandalas are body, speech, and mind, and in the very center, wisdom and great bliss. The Kalachakra sand mandala is dedicated to both individual and world peace and physical balance. The Dalai Lama explains, "It is a way of planting a seed, and the seed will have karmic effect. One doesn't need to be present at the Kalachakra ceremony in order to receive its benefits." Text of the Kalachakra Tantra. The Kalachakra Tantra is divided into 5 chapters. Ground Kalachakra. The first 2 chapters are considered the ground Kalachakra. The first chapter deals with what is called the outer Kalachakra, the physical world, and in particular the calculation system for the Kalachakra calendar, the birth and death of universes, our solar system, and the workings of the elements. The second chapter deals with the inner Kalachakra, and concerns processes of human gestation and birth, the classification of the functions within the human body and experience, and the Vajrakaya, the expression of human physical existence in terms of channels, winds, drops and so forth. Human experience is by some described in terms of 4 mind states: waking, dream, deep sleep, and a 4th state which is available through the energies of sexual orgasm. The potentials which give rise to these states are described, together with the processes that flow from them. Path and fruition. The last 3 chapters describe the other, or alternative Kalachakra, and deal with the path and fruition. The third chapter deals with the preparation for the meditation practices of the system, the initiations of Kalachakra. The 4th chapter explains the actual meditation practices themselves, both the meditation on the mandala and its deities in the generation stage practices, and the perfection or completion stage practices of the 6 yogas. The 5th and final chapter describes the state of enlightenment that results from the practice. Astrology. The phrase, as it is outside, so it is within the body, is often found in the Kalachakra Tantra to emphasize the similarities and correspondence between human beings and the cosmos. This concept is the basis for Kalachakra astrology, but also for more profound connections and interdependencies taught in the Kalachakra literature. In Tibet, the Kalachakra astrological system is one of the main building blocks in the composition of Tibetan astrological calendars. The astrology in the Kalachakra is not like the Western system, in that it employs complicated astronomical calculations to determine, for example, the exact location of the planets, history and origin. Original teaching in India and later teachings in Kingdom of Shambhala. According to the Kalachakra Tantra, Suchandra, Dharmaraja of Shambhala, requested that Gautama Buddha teach him how to practice the Dharma without renouncing worldly responsibilities. In response to his request, the Buddha taught the first Kalachakra root Tantra in Dharanikota in 5th century BC, of southeastern India, supposedly bilocating at the same time as he was also delivering the Prajnaparamita Sutras at Gridraj Parvat in Bihar. Along with King Suchandra, 96 minor kings and emissaries from Shambhala were also said to have received the teachings. The Kalachakra thus passed directly to Shambhala, where it was held exclusively for hundreds of years. Later kings of Shambhala, Manjushrakirti and Pundarika, are said to have condensed and simplified the teachings into the Kalachakra or Laghutantra and its main commentary, the Vimala Prabha, which remain extant today as the heart of the Kalachakra literature. Fragments of the original Tantra have survived. The most significant fragment, the Sekodashore, was commented upon by Naropa. Manjushrakirti is said to have been born in 159 BC and ruled over Shambhala, which had 300,510 followers of the Mleccha religion living in it, some of whom worshipped the sun. He is said to have expelled all the heretics from his dominions, but later, after hearing their petitions, allowed them to return. For their benefit, and the benefit of all living beings, he explained the Kalachakra teachings. In 59 BC he abdicated his throne to his son, Pundarika, and died soon afterwards, entering the Sambhogakaya of Buddhahood. Chilupa, Kalachakra. There are currently two main traditions of Kalachakra, the Ra lineage and the Dro lineage. Although there were many translations of the Kalachakra texts from Sanskrit into Tibetan, the Ra and Dro translations are considered to be the most reliable. The two lineages offer slightly differing accounts of how the Kalachakra teachings returned to India from Shambhala. In both traditions, the Kalachakra and its related commentaries were returned to India in 966 CE by an Indian Pandit. In the Ra tradition this figure is known as Chilupa, and in the Dro tradition as Kalachakra the Greater. Scholars such as Helmut Hoffman have suggested they are the same person. The first masters of the tradition disguised themselves with pseudonyms. So the Indian oral traditions recorded by the Tibetans contain a mass of contradictions. Chilupa, Kalachakra is said to have set out to receive the Kalachakra teachings in Shambhala. Along the journey to which he encountered the Kulika king Durjaya manifesting as Manjusri, who conferred the Kalachakra initiation on him, based on his pure motivation. Upon returning to India, Chilupa, Kalachakra is said to have defeated in debate Nadapada, abbot of Nalanda, a great center of Buddhist thought at that time. Chilupa, Kalachakra then initiated Nadapada into the Kalachakra, and the tradition thereafter in India and Tibet stems from these two. Nadapada established the teachings as legitimate in the eyes of the Nalanda community, and initiated into the Kalachakra such masters as Atisa. A Tibetan history, the Dpagbsamljon Bang, as well as architectural evidence, indicates that the Ratnagiri Odisha Mahavihara was an important center for the dissemination of the Kalachakra Tantra in India. The Kalachakra tradition, along with all Buddhism, vanished from India in the wake of the Muslim invasions, surviving only in Nepal. Spread to Tibet. The Dro lineage was established in Tibet by a Kashmiri disciple of Nalandapa named Pandita Somanatha, who travelled to Tibet in 1027, and his translator Dro Lotsawa Sherap Drak Wylie. Brolo Tsa bar Shes Rab Grags, from which it takes its name. The Ra lineage was brought to Tibet by another Kashmiri disciple of Nadapada named Samantashri, and translated by Ra Lotsawa Korap Wylie. Rwa Lo Tsa bar Chos Rab. The Ra lineage became particularly important in the Sakya school of Tibetan Buddhism, where it was held by such prominent masters as Sakya Pandita, Drogon Chogyal Phagpa, Bhutan Rinchen Drup, and Dolpopa Sherap Jayazen. The latter two, both of whom also held the Dro lineage, are particularly well-known expositors of the Kalachakra in Tibet, the practice of which is said to have greatly informed Dolpopa's exposition of Shentong. A strong emphasis on Kalachakra practice and exposition of the Shentong view were the principal distinguishing characteristics of the Jonang school, that traces its roots to Dolpopa Sherap Jayazen. The teaching of the Kalachakra was further advanced by the great Jonang scholar Taranatha. In the 17th century, the government of the 5th Dalai Lama outlawed the Jonang school, closing down or forcibly converting most of its monasteries. The writings of Dolpopa Sherab Gyaltsen, Taranatha, and other prominent Shentong scholars were banned. Ironically, it was also at this time that the Gelug school absorbed much of the Jonang Kalachakra tradition. Today, Kalachakra is practiced by all schools of Tibetan Buddhism, although it appears most prominently in the Gelug lineage. It is the main tantric practice for the Jonangpa, whose school persists to this day with a small number of monasteries in Kham, Qinghai and Sichuan. Efforts are underway to have the Jonang tradition be recognized officially as a fifth tradition of Tibetan Buddhism.